Holly got the call at 7:12 a.m. By 8:30, she was sitting in the emergency waiting room at Vancouver General with a Tim Hortons coffee she'd bought for me that I'd never get to drink warm. My mother got the call at 7:15 a.m. By 2 in the afternoon, she still hadn't left Kelowna. I didn't know any of this while it was happening. I was too busy trying to remember what year it was and whether my name was still mine. The accident had happened at 6:45 in the morning on the Granville Street Bridge. I was always the first one into the office. Someone had to make sure the compliance reports were formatted before the 9 a.m. partner review. My team depended on me to have everything ready. The driver who ran the red light at the bottom of the bridge ramp didn't care about any of that. When I woke up, there was a ceiling tile I spent a long time staring at. A nurse with a graying bun and very calm hands was adjusting something near my arm. She noticed I was looking at her. She said my name. She told me I was at BGH. She told me I was at BGH. She told me I'd been in a collision and asked if I remembered. I tried to nod. Pain fired down my left side like someone had replaced my shoulder with a live wire. I made a sound. She put something in my hand, a small button on a cord. "Press that whenever you need to," she said. "You have 2 fractured ribs, a broken collarbone, and a badly herniated disc in your cervical spine. We need to do surgery, but we're waiting on imaging and your pressure to stabilize." Surgery. The word sat on my chest like a second injury. "Your coworker's in the waiting room," she said. "She's called 3 times since she got here. Do you want me to send her in?" I blinked. Yes. What I wanted to ask was, where is my family? My coworker came in looking like she hadn't blinked since receiving the call. She worked the desk across from mine. We'd argued about the office thermostat approximately 100 times. Now her eyes were red and she was holding her own hands together like she was trying to keep them still. "You scared me completely half to death," she said, and pulled a chair close. "Don't try to talk," the nurse told me. "Surgery's tomorrow morning. 6 to 8 weeks minimum recovery." I reached toward the tray where I'd seen my phone. She caught my arm. "Already handled. I called your emergency contact. Your mom said she'd be there as soon as she could." She paused. "She said to tell you they're dealing with something, but they'll come." Something. I knew exactly what it was. My brother's restaurant opening. The soft launch at his new place in downtown Kelowna. The one I'd helped fund for the past 2 years. The one my parents had been building toward for months. Coordinating vendors and managing the front of house staff and making sure the social media was ready. The event my money had helped make possible, $47,000 across 2 years for equipment, renovations, licensing fees, and the liquor license application that got rejected twice and had to be resubmitted. All of it tracked in a spreadsheet I kept in a folder on my desktop labeled Household MISC because I didn't want to look at the running total too often. My coworker saw something in my face. "They're coming, right?" I closed my eyes. She stayed for 2 hours. Another colleague came during his lunch break with a sandwich I couldn't eat and a charging cable for my phone. My direct supervisor sent flowers and a card signed by the whole department. He texted me personally to say my projects were covered and I was not to think about them. My parents didn't come that day. The neurosurgeon came at 5:30 to explain the procedure. Anterior cervical discectomy and fusion. 3 to 5 hours. Risks included nerve damage, infection, difficulty swallowing, and in rare cases, worse. There were forms to sign. "Is family coming for this conversation?" she asked, looking at the forms. "This is a significant procedure. You don't have to go through this part alone." I've been going through everything alone for years. "They're on their way," I said. She looked at me for a moment. Then she went over everything carefully, twice. At 8 that evening, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Sweetheart, how are you doing? We've been thinking about you all day." My voice came out strange, flat. "Surgery's tomorrow at 7. They're doing a cervical fusion." "I know, the hospital called us." "Listen, honey." She had that tone. The one that preceded something I wasn't going to like. "Your brother's opening is tomorrow night. You know how long he's been working toward this. Every supplier in the Okanagan is going to be there, plus the write-up in the food magazine, and we're the ones coordinating everything at the venue side. If we leave now, we can't get back for your surgery and still make it in time to help him set up." I didn't say anything. "You're young and healthy, and your doctors are excellent. Vancouver General is one of the best hospitals in the country. And honestly, you'll probably sleep through most of the day tomorrow anyway. We'd just be sitting in a waiting room." "Mom, it's spinal surgery." "I know that. And we would be there if we could, you know that. But this is your brother's moment. He's been building toward this for 3 years. All the setbacks, the licensing problems, all the money that's gone into this. All the money. My money. The $12,000 for the commercial refrigeration unit when the original lease fell through. The $9,000 for the hood ventilation system that the fire marshal required. The $8,500 for the first failed liquor application, and the lawyer's fees when they appealed. The $6,000 deposit on the new space when they had to move locations. The $11,500 for the custom millwork my brother had decided was essential. I had a Google sheet. The total was $47,000. I've been adding to it in real time because watching the number climb felt like the only control I had. Mom, I might wake up and not be able to feel my hands. You won't. Doctor, whoever you said. She's excellent, right? You said she was experienced. You're going to be fine. You've always been the resilient one. That's just who you are. Your brother needs us there. You understand. I understood. I understood that even with my cervical spine being operated on the following morning, I still ranked second. Third, maybe. After, I said. When can you come after? Right after the opening, we'll head straight to you. We should be there by Sunday afternoon at the latest. It's 2 days, sweetheart. You won't even be fully alert for most of it. Sunday. The surgery was Friday morning. Your brother wants you to know how much your support has meant, she said. He's going to pay you back everything, once the restaurant finds its footing. You know that. I'd heard that before. After the refrigeration unit, after the ventilation system, after every single transfer. I have to go, I said. The nurse is coming. We love you. Text us when you wake up from surgery. She hung up first. I didn't eat the dinner they brought. I lay there looking at the ceiling tile I'd memorized and tried to count the number of times in my life my parents had chosen my brother over me. I ran out of ceiling tile before I ran out of examples. The nurse who came to check on me that evening pulled a chair over and sat down without being asked. She'd been the one on shift since I arrived. She'd answered every call button without impatience. No family tonight? She said. They're in Kelowna. My brother has an opening. She didn't change her expression. But something in her settled, the way someone settles when they've heard a specific kind of answer before, and it breaks their heart in a familiar place. You won't be alone, she said. I'm on until 7. I'll walk with you to pre-op myself. You don't have to do that. I know I don't. She squeezed my hand once, and then let go and went back to her chart. I fell asleep crying. The crying made my ribs hurt. The hurt made me cry more. I was 31 years old, and I was alone in a hospital in Vancouver, and my mother was in Kelowna, making sure the votive candles on the tables were the right height. The surgery took 4 hours. When I came out of it, I couldn't feel the fingers on my left hand. The panic was immediate. The surgeon was there before I could fully register it. She told me it was the nerve block, temporary. Sensation would return within hours. She told me the fusion had gone exactly as planned, better than anticipated. She told me I was going to be all right. My coworker was in the waiting room. So was my supervisor. He'd left a work meeting early and driven across the city, and I never forgot that. There was a card from the whole department, and a small care package someone had put together, hand cream, a crossword book, lip balm, a note that said, "Don't you dare check your email." My parents weren't there. I checked my phone when I could move my arm enough to reach it. One text from my mother sent at 7:04 a.m. Thinking of you today. Be brave. Nothing since. It was past 3 in the afternoon. My brother had posted his opening night on Instagram. 22 stories, a reel, a pinned post. The restaurant looked extraordinary. Exposed brick and Edison bulbs and handwritten chalk menus. A cocktail program with a locally sourced ingredient for each drink. Everything looked curated and intentional and beautiful, and I had funded a significant portion of it from my TFSA savings account and 2 years of declined vacation requests. My parents were tagged in 8 of the posts, my mother in a wrap dress I'd never seen before. My father in a blazer, both of them holding glasses of something, laughing, surrounded by people who were taking photos of the food. They'd had time to drive to Kelowna, buy new clothes, and pose for photographs. They hadn't had time to drive to Vancouver for my surgery. Feeling returned to my hand around 5:30. The pain returned with it. The surgeon came by on her evening rounds and was satisfied. She told me I'd be there for about 5 days. After discharge, I need someone at home with me for a minimum of 2 weeks. No driving, no lifting, limited movement, physiotherapy 3 times a week, follow-up in 10 days. Do you have family who can help? She asked. I thought about my parents, probably at the after party by now. Probably on their second glass. I'll work something out, I said. That night, the nurse sat with me around 2 in the morning when the pain got bad enough that I couldn't sleep. She told me about her daughter, who was finishing her nursing degree at UBC and had paid for it herself with bursaries and part-time work, and one scholarship she'd applied to 47 times before getting. I offered to help, she said. She said no. Said if she did it herself, she'd know she'd earned it. I thought about what it must feel like to be able to refuse help. Not because help was unavailable, but because you didn't need it. Because you'd built something solid enough to stand on. I wondered when I'd last built anything for myself. The next day, my mother called at 11. Honey, how are you feeling? Like I had cervical spine surgery. You're so funny, even now. She laughed. Listen, the opening was incredible. Your brother had a critic in from the magazine and she loved the tasting menu. She said the broth was the best thing she'd eaten this year. Can you imagine? I could. I paid for the commercial stock pot he'd special ordered from a restaurant supply company in Richmond. When are you coming? I asked. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. There's a supplier meeting your brother needs us for this afternoon, and then tomorrow, there's a second dinner service, a private event, some investors the food blogger connected him with. We really should be here to support him through the initial week. You understand? Mom, I can't shower without help. The nurses are there, sweetheart. That's what they're trained for. And you'll be home in a few days. Then we'll come see you. Maybe next week, once things settle down here. Next week. Oh, and one more thing, she said. Your brother's commercial dishwasher had an issue last night during service. The repair company is quoting $800 and his account is a bit stretched right now from the opening costs. Could you e-transfer him? Just to keep things running. I listened to the silence in my own head for a moment. His account is stretched. Just temporarily. You know how it is with a new business. Cash flow is unpredictable. But he can't run a restaurant without a functioning dishwasher. I hung up. I didn't press end gently. I pressed it and then I put the phone face down on the tray and I looked at the ceiling tile and I breathed through my nose until the thing climbing up my throat went back down. The nurse came in 20 minutes later to check my vitals. She looked at me and then she looked at the phone lying face down and she didn't ask. Your family's still in Kelowna? She said. Yes. She did what she needed to do. Adjusted the bed. Wrote something in the chart. You know, she said. In 18 years of nursing, I've never once seen a patient's worth measured by who showed up for them. But I've noticed something. The ones who show up for themselves after, they do better. Consistently. She left before I could figure out what to say. The next 2 days were the kind of quiet that has weight to it. My physiotherapist came. My surgeon came. My coworkers texted. My parents sent a photo of the restaurant's second night, captioned, "Your brother is really hitting his stride." He posted an Instagram caption that morning, a long one, thanking everyone who'd sacrificed to make the dream possible. His investors, the community, his incredible, supportive family. He didn't tag me. On the fourth night, the nurse came in after her shift should have already ended. She pulled the chair up close. I'm not technically supposed to do this, she said quietly, and showed me her phone. It was security footage. Hallway outside my room. Timestamp, Thursday night, 11:48 p.m. The first night after surgery. A woman, maybe late 60s, stood in the corridor looking at the room number on the door. Silver hair cut to her jaw. Good posture. A paper shopping bag in both hands. She stood there for almost 2 full minutes without moving. Then she set the bag down by the nurse's station, exchanged a few words with the desk nurse, and left. She came back last night, my nurse said. And the night before. Every night since your surgery. She asks how you're doing. She leaves something, and she asks us not to say who it's from. She won't come in. I stared at the phone screen. Who is she? She won't tell us much. Just that she knows you. Knew you, she said. A long time ago. I thought about the things that had appeared at my bedside that I'd assumed were from coworkers. A novel. The second in a series I'd mentioned to a colleague months ago that I'd been meaning to start. A small cedar sachet that smelled like the inside of my grandmother's linen closet. A jar of the specific local honey from a farm near Penticton that I'd once mentioned in a conversation I could barely remember having. Someone knew what I read. Someone knew what I found comforting. Someone knew what I found comforting. Someone knew about the honey, which I had mentioned exactly once, years ago, to exactly one person, not to anyone at work, not to anyone I'd spoken to recently. Why won't she come in? I asked. The nurse shook her head. I asked it. The nurse shook her head. I don't know, but I thought you should know someone's been here. Every single night. I didn't sleep much after that. I lay in the dark and thought about who knew about the honey. There was only one answer, and it was an answer that didn't fit anything I thought I knew. On the fifth night, Sunday, the day my parents had promised to arrive by afternoon, I waited. Checked my phone. My parents had been reachable again since Friday, but there were no calls, no texts, until 3 p.m., when my mother sent, running a bit behind. Aimed to be there for dinner. At 7, sorry love. Your brother had a situation with a vendor. Staying one more night to help him sort it. There tomorrow for sure. At 9:30, my father called. Your mother and I have been talking, he said. Your brother's first week needs more support than we expected. We're going to stay through Tuesday, make sure he's fully settled. You understand? You're the practical one. I'm being discharged tomorrow, I said. I can't drive, I can't be alone. Can't a friend help? Or hire a home care aide? It's only temporary. BC Health should cover some of that. They don't cover it. I knew they didn't cover it. BC Health should cover it some of that. They don't cover it. I knew they didn't cover it because I'd already asked. Tyler's first week as a restaurant owner is critical, my father said. You'll understand that later, once you're feeling better. I hung up. I looked at the nurse's station through the window in my door. The night nurse was doing rounds. I pressed the call button. When she appeared, I said, the woman who keeps coming. Is she here tonight? A pause. She's in the waiting room right now, actually. My heart moved in a way I wasn't ready for. She asked tonight if she could see me. She did. I told her you were awake. She said she didn't have the right to come in. But she left this. She held out an envelope. Inside, a note card. Small handwriting. Neat. Blue ink. I know I shouldn't be here. I lost that right a long time ago. But I couldn't not come. Not for this. You've always deserved more than what you got. I hope someday you'll believe that yourself. No name. Just initials. 2 letters that took me a full minute to place, and then placed themselves like a key in a lock I hadn't known existed. She's in the waiting room right now, I said. She is. Send her in. I pressed the button to raise my bed. Wished I looked like something other than a person whose family had chosen a restaurant opening over her spinal surgery. Wished my hair was washed. Pressed the back of my hand to my face to check if I looked like I'd been crying, which I had, because I had been. The door opened. The woman from the security footage stepped in. Up close, she was striking in a calm way. Silver gray hair, green eyes that went a little wide when she saw me looking at her, like she was still deciding whether she'd made a mistake by coming. She stood in the doorway. She said my name, said it carefully, like it was something she'd been holding on to for a while, and was finally setting down. I know I don't have the right to be here, she said. I know that. But when I heard about the accident, I couldn't make myself stay away. I've been watching your life from a distance for a long time. This time, I couldn't just watch. I stared at her. Who are you? I asked. She came one step closer. Her hands were folded in front of her, very still. I'm your godmother, she said. Your mother's older sister. I'm the aunt you don't remember because your parents cut me out of your life when you were 9 years old. The room shifted. Why? She took a breath. Because I told your parents they were raising you to be your brother's support system instead of your own person. Because when your mother said your brother needed private school and the money wasn't there, I said the money should come from both of them equally, not from expecting you to eventually take up the slack. Because when you were 8, you told me you wanted to be a marine biologist, and 6 months later your mother told me that was unrealistic and you'd agree to study something practical. She stopped. You didn't agree. You were 8. They just said it enough times until you stopped arguing. I couldn't speak. I pushed back too hard, she said. Your parents gave me an ultimatum. Choose their way or lose access to you. I chose wrong. I thought if I stayed in the fight, I could still help. I underestimated how much easier it is to just cut someone out. You've been watching from a distance, I said. For how long? 22 years. I was 31. I'd been 9 when she disappeared. The honey, I said. She blinked. From the Penticton farm. I mentioned it once. You were the only person I ever told about that farm. Something crossed her face. She nodded. I've been reading, she said quietly. Everything you post. Everything you post. Everything public. You mentioned it in a comment thread 4 years ago. I ordered a case. The book. The series I've been meaning to start. Your coworker mentioned it in a post she tagged you in. I thought you might want something to read. The cedar sachet. She almost smiled. Your grandmother had them everywhere. Your mother's mother. You used to ask to smell them when you were small. You said it smelled like somewhere safe. I was crying. I couldn't help it. It hurt my ribs and I couldn't stop. They left me here, I said, for his opening. The opening I funded. They chose his restaurant launch over my surgery. I know. She came closer and sat down in the chair by the bed. I know. I've watched them do this to you for years. Every time you gave more. Every time you said yes when you needed to say no. When I heard about the accident, when I found out they weren't here, I thought, maybe this is the moment she finally sees it clearly. Maybe this is when she chooses herself. I don't know how to do that. You hung up on your mother. You turned off your phone. You're further along than you think. They'll be furious. Yes, they'll say I'm being ungrateful, that I'm tearing the family apart. They will. And that's going to hurt, she said simply. I won't pretend it won't. But Emma, not your name, she stopped herself. You almost died on that bridge. You know that, right? The paramedic said you'd been running on 4 hours of sleep. They found 3 separate to-do lists in your bag. When is the last time you did something just because it made you happy? I couldn't answer. Come stay with me, she said, for a recovery. I have a room. 1 floor, no stairs. I already checked what the surgeon recommends. We can figure out the rest from there. You already checked. I looked it up when I heard you were having surgery. She met my eyes. I wanted to be ready, in case you'd finally had enough. I cried for a long time. She sat in the chair, and she didn't rush me, and she didn't fill the silence with things that weren't useful. When I stopped, she reached into the paper bag she brought. I need to show you something, she said. She opened her banking app, navigated, turned the screen toward me. This is an account I set up for you. I started it the year your parents cut me out. I've been adding to it every year. Your birthday, Christmas. Every time I saw them take something from you and tell you it was love. The balance was $94,000. I stopped breathing. That's yours, she said. I was going to give it to you for a house. Or a trip. Or a decision you needed to make that required a net underneath you. But I think you need to know it exists right now. I think you need to know that someone has been in your corner even when you couldn't see them. I thought about the $47,000 I'd given my brother, scraped together from years of skipped vacations, of declining to replace the winter coat that was getting thin, of saying no to myself whenever my brother's needs said yes. She had been saving for me while my parents were spending me. I can't take this. You can. You will. When you're ready. She closed the app. For now, just come and recover. Let me be the person I was supposed to be for you the last 22 years. The morning of my discharge, doctor calls. Singh cleared me and went through the list. No driving, 6 weeks minimum, no lifting, physiotherapy 3 times weekly. She looked at the woman sitting in the chair. Your aunt? Yes. Good. Don't try to do this alone. I had 31 missed calls by the time I turned my phone back on. I listened to 1 voicemail from my mother. We drove all the way to your apartment, and you're not there. The superintendent said you'd been discharged. Where are you? We came to help you, and you're not here. Your brother is very hurt that you haven't reached out to congratulate him. Call us back immediately. I deleted it. My aunt's car was in the parking garage. Her house was in Langley. A bungalow, 1 floor. Guest room already set up with exactly what the discharge nurse had recommended. I don't know when she'd had time to do it. She'd been at the hospital every night. Stop thinking about logistics, she said when she saw me trying to work it out. I can't help it. I know. You've been the person who thinks about logistics for 31 years. You can take a few weeks off. The first call from my mother came that evening, to my aunt's landline. She'd found the number somehow. Who gave you my daughter? She said when my aunt answered. My aunt handed me the phone. Mom. Emma. My actual name. Thank God. Where are you? Why are you at her house? What is going on with you? I'm recovering from surgery at my godmother's house. She is not your godmother. She gave up that right years ago. You don't even know her. Come home, we'll take care of you here. You were in Kelowna. We came as soon as we could. You came 2 days after I was discharged. The surgery was Friday. Your brother needed us. I know what he needed. He needed the dishwasher fixed and he needed $800. I know because Mom called me in a hospital bed to ask for it. Silence. We didn't mean for it to sound like that. No more, I said. No more money. Not $800 for the dishwasher. Not $47,000 for the restaurant build out. Not whatever the next thing is. I'm done. Emma, he's your brother. And I'm your daughter. I was in the ICU with a broken spine and you chose a restaurant opening. I'm not saying this to be cruel. I'm saying it so we both understand where things stand. You're being dramatic. You're letting her put ideas in your head. The ideas were always there. I just didn't let myself look at them. If you do this, if you choose her over your family, she was at the hospital every night. She was at the hospital every night, I said. Every single night. While you were in Kelowna. My mother went quiet for a long time. We'll talk about this when you're not emotional, she said. I'm not emotional. I'm clear. I hung up. My aunt was in the doorway. She didn't say anything. She just brought me a glass of water and sat down in the chair across from me. The next 6 weeks were the hardest I'd had and the most rest I'd taken in a decade. I relearned how to sleep more than 5 hours. I stopped checking work email. I started reading the book she'd brought me. I finished it in 4 days, and she drove to the bookstore and got me the next 2 in the series without my asking. We talked. Long dinners, slow mornings with coffee. She told me about the years after my parents cut her out. How she'd watched, from posts and mentions and mutual family contacts, as I shrank down into someone practical and responsible and useful. How the girl who'd wanted to study ocean biology became the woman who filed quarterly compliance reports at 6:30 in the morning. You were 9 when I last saw you, she said. You brought me a drawing of a beluga whale you'd done from memory after we went to the aquarium. It was incredibly accurate. I don't remember that. I still have it. I looked at her. I've kept everything I could, she said. Every public thing. I know that sounds strange. It doesn't, I said, and I meant it. My brother called 3 weeks into recovery. I almost didn't answer. Finally, he said, I'd been trying to reach you. Listen, the restaurant had a rough patch. One of the suppliers fell through and we had to reorder at a higher price point. I need about $6,000 to cover the gap. I know you're upset about the surgery thing, but this is literally make or break for the business. No, I said. A pause. What? No. I won't be sending money. Emma, come on. This is my livelihood. I'd given you $47,000. That was my contribution. I hope the restaurant succeeds, but I'm not the right person to call for this. He started to say something else. I hung up. Block the number. My mother texted. Your brother is devastated. You're destroying what he's worked for. I blocked her. My father left a voicemail about family obligation and the sacrifices parents make. I blocked him too. Then I called my carrier and changed my number. My supervisor had approved 6 weeks full pay. My colleagues sent books and tea and a handwritten card with everyone's signatures that I read 3 times. My coworker from the desk across mine sent me a voice note every few days, just checking in, never asking for anything back. These people had shown up, not because they had to. Not because of blood or obligation, or because they needed something from me. Just because. At week 8, I went back to work part-time. My supervisor pulled me into his office on the first day back. How are you really? Better. Genuinely. Your mother called the main line twice while you were out, asked when you'd be returning. I know, thank you for not telling her. I told her we couldn't confirm or deny employee schedules. He smiled. I want you to know something. You're not valuable to this team because of how many hours you put in or how early you arrive. You're valuable because of how you think. Don't forget that. I cried in the bathroom for 10 minutes. Then I washed my face and went to my desk. At week 12, I signed a lease on a place in East Van. Smaller than my old apartment, but with a second room, I turned into a writing space. I started writing during recovery. First just notes about what had happened, then longer things. Essays I wasn't sure were for anyone. Then fiction that surprised me with how easily it came once I wasn't filling every spare hour with work or worry. I wrote about a woman who gave everything to her family until she was empty, and then learned that being empty was the beginning, not the end. At week 20, my mother found my new address. She came on a Tuesday morning and rang the buzzer. And when I didn't let her in, she stood at the door of the building for 45 minutes. I watched her on the entry camera. She left a letter. You will regret this. When you are old and alone and need us, you'll understand what you threw away. Your brother's restaurant is struggling because of the support you withdrew. That is on you. Family is all that remains in the end. She will not be there forever. I brought it to my therapist the next week. She read it. Set it down. What do you feel? Sad. And a little relieved. I thought about it. Relieved that I'm not the person who would have read this and sent the money anyway. That's new. That's not small, she said. 14 months after the accident, I got a promotion. Associate director. An office with a window. A team of my own. I bought a car. My first real choice of car. Not the cheapest available. Not the most practical. The one I actually wanted. I drove my aunt down to White Rock for the afternoon because she'd mentioned she missed the ocean. We had fish and chips on the pier and she told me I'd always been her favorite person and I believed her for the first time. I submitted a piece of writing to a literary magazine on something like a dare to myself. They published it, then asked for another. I wrote it and sent it and they published that one too. My brother found my email through a mutual cousin. I heard you got a promotion. That's great. Listen, the restaurant is going into receivership unless we find capital in the next month. I know we haven't spoken, but you're my sister. Please. I didn't respond. My mother sent a card to my aunt with a forwarding note that read, please make sure she gets this. My aunt gave it to me unopened. Inside was a photograph of the three of us, me, my brother, my mother, from a Christmas I couldn't place. I was maybe 6. I looked happy in it. I put it in a box and put the box in the closet. Almost 2 years after the accident, I met someone. He thought my clearest personality trait was the way I said no to things that didn't deserve a yes. He called it precision. He had never once asked me for money. When I told him about my family, he said, they didn't lose you. They let you go. Those are different things. When he met my aunt, she looked at him for a long time and then said, all right, that was enough for me. 3 years after the accident, my brother called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered by accident. I know we haven't talked, he said. The restaurant closed. I have significant debt. I'm living with mom and dad. I just need a short-term loan. You have the means, I know you do. Please. I'm your brother. 3 years ago, I would have said yes before he finished the sentence. 2 years ago, I would have felt the guilt like a physical weight. A year ago, I would have spent a week deciding. I hope you find a way through, I said. But I can't be it. I'm sorry. He tried to continue. I ended the call. My mother's final message came through a cousin, handwritten in a card. The family you have chosen is not your real family. Blood is real. Everything else is a story you are telling yourself. We will be here when you are ready to come back. But know that we cannot keep this door open forever. I wrote back on a plain note card. Family is who shows up. You showed up for the restaurant opening. She showed up for my surgery. I know who my family is. I sent it. Then I blocked my cousin's number too. I haven't heard from them since. My aunt turns 72 this spring. She is sharper than anyone I know, funnier than I expected, and the only person on earth who remembers the beluga whale drawing and brings it up with appropriate frequency. She lives 20 minutes from me now. We have Sunday dinners that run long and get loud when her friends are there and quieter when it's just us, which I like equally. My second essay collection came out in January. The dedication reads, For the woman who kept the drawing. And for everyone still learning that no is enough. People ask me whether I regret cutting off my parents, whether I miss them, whether there's a version of this story where we reconcile. I tell them the truth. I don't miss being the ATM. I miss the idea of them. The parents I wanted them to be. That missing doesn't go anywhere, I've learned. You just stop letting it make decisions for you. My father sent a letter to my publisher, who forwarded it to my agent, who sent it to me with a note that said, you don't have to read this. I didn't. My brother's debt settled eventually. I heard through someone. I hope it did. I genuinely hope he's okay. I hope my parents are okay. I hope they found a way to be good to each other, since there's no longer anyone left to be good for them. But I learned something in that hospital room in Vancouver, with the nurse holding my hand at 2 a.m. while my parents were taking pictures at a restaurant opening. I had funded, love isn't supposed to cost you everything and give you nothing. I was 31 years old before I understood that. I'm not willing to unknow it now.